I'd like to show you the famous game of the century in which 13-year-old Bobby Fischer wins against Grandmaster Donald Byrne in the 1956 New York Rosenwald tournament. So Byrne is white, brings the knight out. Black brings the knight out. White plays c4, so at the moment the opening could transpose or change into a number of different openings. g6, getting ready to fiend shadow the bishop. Knight c3, knight out, bishop out. Pawn in the centre. Castles. Looks like it's heading towards the King's Indian. Bishop f4. d5, but now it's turned into a Grunfeld variation, which tends to lead to more open positions than the King's Indian. Coin out. Now this is called the Russian system. The idea is to build a strong pawn centre, but usually it's played a move earlier when this bishop is back home. So White's got pressure on this pawn, so Black exchanges pawns. This pawn is under attack, so Black moves it. White gets a pawn in the centre. He has the classical centre, 2 pawns side by side. Knight out. Rook supports the centre. Now the downside is Black has castled and White has not yet castled. Knight attacks Queen. Queen forward. Would have been safer to have gone back here. Bishop pins the knight to the rook. So bishop's lined up here. Okay, I'll just move that arrow. Okay, now comes a move which is a loss of time. So White's moved his bishop twice in the opening. Now Fischer plays an amazing move. He just puts a knight where it can be taken for nothing. Knight a4, what a move. If White were to take it, and Black would take here, hitting the Queen, this bishop, and say if the Queen moves away somewhere, I don't know, here say, the bishop will take the knight, and then the knight will take the bishop, and Black will regain the piece. Though, and also, if the Queen were to take the pawn, say, then Black will get a huge attack down the king file. For example, he can check and then move the rook over. So what's Houdini saying? So Houdini, the chess engine, is saying this is -3 pawns for Black. So it means that Black's about 3 pawns up. Okay, so we're back up. So what happened in the game was White did not take the knight. Instead he retreated the Queen. Houdini suggesting Queen to b4 here, which is Queen to the square. Okay, so the Queen moves back. Black exchanges knights, and now Black has won a pawn. So White can win his pawn back, which he does, but now he's going to be in danger down the king file because the White king is not yet castled. Okay, so Queen to b6. So Black's not worried about the bishop taking the rook, as he will get a strong attack for the exchange. Okay, so White did not take the rook. Instead, he brought his bishop out. Knight took the pawn. The idea is, if the Queen were to take the knight, then the rook would pin the bishop to the king and eventually win this bishop. Okay, so So white did not take the knight. Instead played what looks like a pretty sensible move. He moved the bishop back to hit the queen. And maybe he was hoping that next move he might be able to take the knight. Okay, so white gave a check, a very good thing to do. Rook goes to the open file with check. So Houdini says black's a bit over a pawn up, which is what he is a pawn up. King moves, so white has forfeited castling and this rook is out of play. Now Fischer plays the most remarkable move of the game here. Very unusual move. So he attacks this loose bishop. So he plays bishop to e6. What a move. So Byrne took the queen. It's interesting to see what happens if the bishop takes the bishop. So white would now have a smothered checkmate with the queen and the knight. So he goes check. The blocking moves don't change anything. King over. Knight check, forcing the king into discovered check. So the knight gives a double check, the king must move. Queen goes to the back line. Rook takes queen. Knight smothered mate. Notice smothered mate usually happens with the king in the corner, but here the rook and the pawn stop the king moving. So that was one interesting variation. So going back to this position, white didn't take the bishop. Yeah, if he takes the knight, there's a very sneaky move by black. The bishop's lined up on the queen, so it pins this pawn to the queen. This pawn would move. Black would get a free queen, so there's a strong move here. So the queen could take the bishop, so it's a free bishop. Not only that, this bishop's under fire as well, being pinned to the queen. So that didn't happen. So white didn't take the knight, he took the queen. Bishop takes bishop check, king over. This knight's under attack, so Fischer moves it away with check, king moves across. Knight takes pawn check, winning the pawn. White's got nothing better than moving the king back. Knight check, again forcing the king into discovered check, king across. Knight check. So now the knight's attacking the rook, and because this pawn's missing, the bishop is defending the knight. King must go back. Pawn takes bishop, so black wins the bishop and attacks the queen at the same time. So if we look at this, Houdini reckons this is great for black, being equivalent of 6 pawns ahead. So both sides have got 2 rooks, both sides have got a knight, so it's 2 bishops for the queen, but white's going to win this. Black's going to win the rook. So the queen went to attack the bishop. Black played a move here which is defence and attack at the same time. The best form of defence, aggressive defence. So he moves the rook to defend the bishop with an X-ray, and at the same time attacking the queen. So white's got to move the queen, so he takes the pawn at least. Now the knight takes the rook. So not only does black have 2 bishops and a rook for the queen, this rook's out of play as well, and the king's still under attack. So it's looking very good for black. White gives his king an escape and he gets ready to free up the rook. Rook took the pawn, king escapes. Knight took the pawn, hitting the rook. Rook moved. Black swaps rooks. He checks, he puts the bishop away. So that little check was an in-between move, so at least this bishop is passive now, because it's in a pin. White recaptures the rook. Bishop goes to a fine central square, and it's an outpost that's guarded by a pawn, and it hits the g2 pawn near the king. The knight moves towards the centre. Knight moves towards the centre. Queen attacks the pawn on b7. So it's very difficult for white to do anything here. So, at the very least, black can just run up these passed pawns. Pawn up. Pawn up. Stopping any nonsense with this pawn coming forward. Knight e5. King up. Unpinning the bishop. So this bishop's now free to move. King over. Check. King over. Check. So now there's a fantastic attack here with 4 pieces attacking the king. Usually the best piece to attack the king with is the queen, but here a rook and 3 minor pieces do the job. King over. Check. 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 Now we've got a fancy checkmate there with a rook, knight and 2 bishops. Yep, so that was a pretty amazing game. So thank you for watching.